Era il 2006 quando usciva Back to Black, il secondo album di Amy Winehouse, il disco della consacrazione. Un lavoro trainato da una sequenza impressionante di singoli diventati hit, capace di scalare le classifiche di tutto il mondo mentre, in parallelo, la luce attorno alla cantautrice si affevoliva lentamente e iniziava il suo declino. A 20 anni da quel capolavoro, la storica band che accompagnava Amy Winehouse torna in tour per celebrarlo, con alcune date anche in Italia. Abbiamo incontrato Dale Davis, bassista storico e direttore musicale alla guida della Amy Winehouse Band, per farci raccontare cosa significa riportare sul palco quell'eredità.
The Legacy is a great artist, a great lyricist, great musician, and an incredible person, a person who spoke to everyone. I was reluctant to do it for 4 years after she passed, but then there was a set of events that led me to do it with the band. The band were asked to play at the documentary, the Amy documentary, so we reformed for that. And then a few months after, we were approached by a Retrospective Live to continue doing the music. At first, it was a bit strange. It didn't feel comfortable. And then within a week or so, we did a show in Holland, and there was a woman there with her mother who was going to pass, and one of her wishes was to see the concert. So at that point, you realise it's about the audience and not about us. And we firstly started with an Italian singer called Plano, who was very good, but then in 2018 I met a singer called Bronte Shand, and she didn't do it for a while, but once there was the opportunity to have her on board, then we were going to use her. And she's very similar to Amy, a great musician, great vocalist, and has some of the quirky characteristics that Amy had. It's not new music, so, we're playing Amy's music how we did on stage, and with a few differences, but people will come to see something that was very close to how we performed with Amy. Well, it's quite similar to how Amy started off when she started off with her career. She was more accessible to the older generation. She appealed to Radio 2 audiences, and then with the start of Back to Black, she crossed over to the mainstream, and I watched her starting to get younger and younger crowds. So it was a similar thing with this. We started off with an older generation, people who could afford to go and see the shows. But then as time passed, there was a lot of younger people coming along. And since the Back to Black movie 2 years ago, we're seeing a lot younger children now, like 13. And we've even had 8-year-olds. We played to a children's concert in Spain last year, which was an excuse for the adults to go. But so we're crossing everything from, we've had babies there as well, so right through up to until you die, 80, 90 or whatever. Yeah, I did. It was back in 2003. Initially I went for the audition. I didn't get it. She liked a bass player before me, and he did one show, but he was working for bigger established artists, so they couldn't afford to pay him, and then they called me in, which is I always look at myself as the uglier, cheaper version. Well, I never got involved with the making of the album. That was done by the two producers, Mark Ronson and Salam Remy. But I remember when it was time for Amy to go and perform those songs live, she sent me the demos through her management. And when I first heard the songs, they didn't have any of the orchestras on there. They were just basically rhythm sections, and they sounded very different until they put the orchestration on and then mixed it. And then Amy was very excited about it. I remember when Rehab was coming out, she was very excited about that. She loved Wake Up Alone. And then I remember speaking to Ray, her manager, in November, and he said, it looks like we're going to sell 100,000 albums by the end of the year. And it just took off. But I remember we got a call in August of 2006 to say we're going to start working on Back to Black. And originally when we started, Ray said that there was only 2 dates in September and November, but by the end of September the diary was full right through, and to the point where Amy had to cancel because there were so many shows and the tiredness had set in. Yes, after 2 weeks on my third show with her at Notting Hill Carnival, she was only 19 still, and the carnival was a very demanding place to play. It's predominantly well, back then it was predominantly black audience and black music, but then we were performing, and then halfway through the set we were playing in Power Square, and it was empty. By halfway through, a lot of people turned up. By the end, the square was completely full. But the thing that stood out about that performance was Amy's voice was so powerful. She didn't need a band on stage. She could have literally done that show on her own. And I remember at that moment, I thought, that is an incredible performance that I've witnessed, and someone I have to look out for in the future. Just being able to sit and talk with her and have loads of silly jokes. We had a very well, she'll probably strike me down with lightning and say, I didn't think of you like that, Dale. But we had a great relationship. We used to talk all the time. It was a very free-flowing relationship in terms of conversation. We shared a lot of information, shared a lot of good times, and we went through a lot together. It's hard because sometimes I think we could have all done more to keep her here, but sometimes these things don't happen, and people's willpowers are stronger than others. So that's the thing I miss most. I miss her smile and just sitting down and having jokes with her.